In nature, you would not bite into a cow. You know, you would not pick up a rock and try to kill a cow. And if you did, it would, you would not kill a deer in nature.
Why do you think that?
All nature.
I mean,
because you would be living where fruit is abundant. Putting on clothes, that's where I'm going with this. The fact that humans, if you're living in a place where
humans hunted all the time.
And where fruit is abundant, what do we find?
We're actually evolutionarily predisposed to hunting. One of humans' greatest advantage is our endurance. You know,
how boring
before we had weapons. Hold on. Before we had weapons.
Let Steelman finish. Y'all heard his argument already. This was the first time I was hearing this full argument. I don't mean to be bossy or nothing, but y'all.
Yeah, no, you're right. Steelman, go ahead.
Well, so I mean, I was just trying to say that, and that's kind of like, and I'm not appealing to the Bible, but one of the first things Adam and Eve did after they came out of the garden was they put clothes on. And what that means is that one of the first things that we did when we left our animal stage is
kill.
Is we put clothes on. And why is that important? Because you can't live off of the equator without clothes, without tools, and like I said, without clothes.
So you're saying we killed to get those clothes?
No, let him.
Wait, I'm just clarity. I'm not interrupting. I want to make sure.
I'm saying that you take the clothes off the people, and take the tools away from them. You force them back onto the equator, and what happens when they're back onto the equator? They're living in a fruit.
I see where you're going.
Yeah, annually, not seasonally. This isn't a 4 seasons snow, all that crap that most people believe in.
They don't have seasons on the equator.
They have on the equator. They have fruit that fruits all year round. And a lot of these places, like they won't have snow, like or anything like that. It's not the same type of winters. It's fruit all year round. So what I'm saying
is not. Go ahead.
The Bible also says, and I hate to go appeal to the Bible again, but this is why before they put on clothes, he said, "I give you all seed-bearing plants as food," because they were eating fruits. And
also gave them dominion over all animals.
Well, so again, if you're just living, and this is why, like I say, you have to, potatoes, for example, have too much starch and all that stuff, and it's unethical to eat. People say, well, what about plants? You're killing the plants because that's unethical. No, vegetables are unethical to eat, and they're not healthy for the body. Fruits, all seed-bearing plants, are healthy for the body. You're not killing the plant. You're actually taking and spreading the seed. And
you're on the limb with this, bro. You're really out on the limb.
Out of plant, but we also make clothing out of what? Animal hide. Right, and even when we live,
you wouldn't even need clothing if you were living on the equator.
But they were living on the equator.
And thanks to environmentally damage.
Kill the animals that are eating that fruit as well. This is just—it's what we've always done.
That?
We're going to kill the animals that eat the fruit.
See, that's not when you go outside and stuff like that in nature. Would you ever thought about killing an animal with your hands or something like that? That's not natural.
Why, you keep saying with your hands, but if you ask a bio, if you ask, don't talk through me, Fatty. Certainly don't do that. When you
with your hands,
right? If you asked,
when Flo talks, you shut the fuck up.
Nice.
A biologist, or I've heard evolutionary biologists talk about how we're a meat-eating ape, and basically that's how we got enough calories to have big brains, right? Protein and calories, because that's in meat. You don't have either of those in the quantities necessary in plants to build this big a brain that takes most of our caloric energy, and so we became scavengers.
I heard the same, yes, and it's shit. I lost mine. Go ahead.
Well, we had talked about this a little bit, and I had looked into this, and what I have come to conclude about this is, so are you saying though that man started eating meat? See, my question is, was he hunting before he started eating meat? Did he develop the tools to hunt? Because he couldn't have been eating meat to develop tools to hunt.
Oh my goodness! You said you read stuff. They've already found much evidence. They found much evidence that we used to run them off of mountains and off the side of hills and stuff like that, and that's how we would hunt before we had weapons.
What he's saying is basically, so historically, species have, and I don't believe in evolution, so I'm just retelling what I heard, not necessarily all that I believe, but it does make sense to me. That species would go extinct and come into development, as the environment changed, and that with humans you had a new survival strategy where we adapted to the environment. So when things changed, at some point we came out of the trees and we started scavenging meat. The scavenged meat gave us enough calories and protein that our brains grew, and from there we learned how to hunt and cook, which would allow us to have even more meat. But yeah, that's the claim.
Well, actually, yeah. So it's right along the same. So it was my theory is very in line with that. It's when the African deserts or whatever like that, they came out of the trees, they started looking for food, just like you're talking about. And this is where they started flipping over cow pies, because we've seen that these apes will actually look for the grub beetles or the dung beetles under the cow pies to eat them. Well, this is also where the psilocybin mushrooms grow on those cow pies. So as you know, the alternative theory is that they ate from these psychedelic mushrooms, that's actually what caused their brain to develop, and that's actually what caused that's actually what caused them to develop the tools necessary to cook meat.
Your whole premise is messed up, because the out of Africa has all been but disproven. Anyway.
Well, him and I are both arguing the same point. That yes, they came out of this era, Sahara Dryas, or whatever it is called, where it all what he's talking about. They came out of the trees. We're on the same page on that. Okay, so we're not arguing that point right now.
I put everyone else backstage for a second. I'll bring you guys back up in a minute. The mushroom theory doesn't work because, like, our brain takes something like 50% of our calories. It uses so much caloric energy that you would need sustained high calorie doses that only comes from meat. You don't get that from a shroom trip.
Well, I mean, like, what about like Indian cultures, for example, where the majority of the people are vegetarian? You're saying that
there's no culture on Earth throughout all of recorded history that doesn't eat meat.
So you're saying that there are not vegetarian major.
I'm saying that there may be a vegetarian, or there may be vegetarians interspersed in the population, sure, and also there may be populations where the bulk of what they eat is plant. But there is no civil. If you want to say that this is a conditioned thing to eat meat, there is no example of a society ever throughout human history that is strictly vegetarian that did not eat meat.
Okay, maybe there haven't been. So I'm going to say that
that's
I still don't.
Good evidence that it's not conditioned culturally because it's universal.
Okay, well, okay, then hold on a second. Let me, before you lose me completely, let me give you one more chance at this. So I think it goes back to before they were eating meat. This is where I'm going with this. The point that you're talking about, before they were eating meat, we were still living. They were hominoids, right? They were hominoids, vegetarian hominoids, right?
There's vegetarian. Most primates are vegetarian.
And the reason I'm pointing this out is because you're saying, well, they must have been vegetarian because it was the meat that was the catalyst.
Well, we're a different species now.
And it was the meat.
We're not spider monkeys.
Right, but we were probably like hominoids or like something very similar to what we would see ourselves as.
I mean, I don't know how far back you're going, but sure.
Right, it wasn't the spider monkey that began eating meat. It was like some sort of... Okay, all I'm trying to say is that they were vegetarians, and I think that they were surviving just fine off being vegetarians.
But we're not them anymore. If you buy into evolution, then you can go, well, they were breathing water, so we should be able to do that too.
Well, okay, so I think that people can survive without eating meat. You're saying they can't survive without eating meat.
I didn't say they can't survive. They can obviously survive. People do that. It is unnatural, and I think that they do it to their own detriment. I don't think they're ever healthier for it.
I mean, I would say that, and I looked into the statistics of this. I would challenge anyone that the majority of health issues in our country are caused by eating meat, and that a vegetarian diet is actually healthier than eating meat.
Caused by eating junk and processed foods. So if you're vegetarian, you're probably not eating McDonald's. That's the correlation that you're getting, is you're cutting out junk food to a large degree. But we can I mean, we can just look at humans. We've got canines. We've got a short intestine tract. We've got front-facing eyes. We're meat eating. Well, we're omnivorous. We're omnivorous. If you were an alien and you landed on Earth and you're like, oh, what do these humans eat? You wouldn't for a second go, only vegetables. You'd be like, oh, they're obviously omnivorous. They're like raccoons. They eat everything.
Okay, and I think you're making fair points, and everything like that, and I agree with pretty much most of it all. So my next question would be then, do you think though, like, have you ever looked at an animal and thought that it looked appetizing? Because I don't think that's a natural thing for people to look at animals.
I've never looked at a plant and thought it looked appetizing. I suppose I've looked at watermelon, but that's about it. Mostly it's because I'm thirsty.
Well, fruits, right? Fruits look appetizing.
But when you smell something, what's the smell? Which is closest connected to, your taste. What is the smell that's most appetizing?
That's a good point. Don't cows stink when they're not dead, and then when you cut them open, they smell more.
It's cooking meat.
So you had to cook the meat before you ate the meat.
You don't have to. You don't have to. You can eat raw beef. You can eat raw fish. And actually, I do regularly eat raw fish.
Okay, but the entrails of a large animal, we can agree, do not smell good.
Nobody's talking about eating intestines.
Right, but when you open up an animal, in a raw animal, that's pretty disgusting and horrifying, I think, naturally. It's not like, oh, wow, this is like eating a strawberry or like eating a cherry. This is like mass murdering or like, right? No. So
it's raw meat and entrails. Entrails aren't appetizing because you're not really supposed to eat entrails, right? Raw meat, I don't know. It's kind of a neutral thing. Raw meat is neutral. You don't look at an animal and think that tastes good, but I bet that if you were I bet you would if you were starving.
Yeah, sure. But and when I say raw meat, I don't mean what we see at the store. I mean like there's a cow with skin and fur on it, and you have to peel back the skin. You actually its guts come out.
Yeah, there's a mango, and you have to climb a tree to get it.
Right, but that's actually a fun, healthy experience. I would say that you actually
unless you fall. You know how far up coconuts are?
Well, some of them are within arm's reach. I would just stick with that, or when they'll fall, or you could throw a coconut at them.
Your theory would only have if your theory were implemented, you would have a dramatically smaller population of humans only at like the equator region and wherever you say that they have plants that fruit all year round. I don't know if this is true or not. Let's assume it is. You'd have a very narrow band. The rest of the world would not be inhabitable, and you'd have stupider people because you cannot get the caloric intake you need from fruit to fuel our brain this size. You can't do it.
Well,
does that sound better?
I would say, first of all, I'm going to trust on the first parts of this, which is the idea of, yes, having a much smaller population, like, say, the Georgia Guidestones would advocate for a sustainable population. And
this is sustainable. If you have more space and more food, you can sustain more people.
But we're destroying more of the planet's way of the ecosystem of the entire
planet. We're part
of
the ecosystem.
But in case, I don't know, you didn't notice, I think that we might actually be also somehow fly in the whole ointment. We're in balance. There's this theory that we're, like you're saying, this Taoist theory that we're all in balance with nature, and that if we drop an atom bomb, it's like a bee making a beehive, and that nature is just doing its thing. I get that. But then there's this other theory that man has sort of stepped outside of nature, and we're polluting the planet,
and that's one of those. That's that Gnostic Puritan tradition that's seeped into your thinking. I absolutely disagree. Humans are not cancer on the planet. People who it's making more sense now that you have that thought. I don't think that environmentalists love nature. I think that they hate people. And because most of them haven't ever been out in nature. Nature is nasty and gnarly and brutal and itchy and gross. There's nothing kind and fluffy about nature.
But the thing is that nature is like where the mystery and the adventure of life also lie. And by humans domesticating ourselves to the point where we have isolated ourselves from nature, and we're trying to do that to the fullest extent. That's
Let me ask, why aren't you in nature right now? Like hunting rabbits well, I guess hunting strawberries with your naked self. You're not living the life that you're promoting because you don't want to. It's not a better way of life. It's more miserable and damn near impossible. It might be impossible depending on where you live. And so you don't actually believe what you're saying, otherwise you'd be doing it, because you could do it.
Well, I'm kind of like you saying, well, it's damn near impossible in some of these places. What we need, that's why we need societal changes in society. I feel like society should sort of progress to that point.
You think society should force you to do the thing that you don't want to do voluntarily? I said it's impossible, not because people aren't going to stop. If you walk out into a natural park and just walk off from society, you're not going to get stopped by society. You're going to get stopped by the fact that it sucks out here. It's cold at night, and I'm tired of eating bugs.
Yeah, but the whole sustainable sort of movement, the whole green movement that you see, is sort of kind of like what I'm saying is getting society to. So what I mean is, one of the movements I'm sure is going to eventually be, meat will eventually be made illegal.
I hope not.
I mean, that's,
that would be a slave diet. You understand that in ancient Rome and stuff, the slaves were kept on a plant-based diet because they didn't want them to be smart. It was specifically to make them stupider.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I looked into that a little bit, and it said that, meat back then was just like a delicacy. It was more rare and whatnot. And I don't know. I would.
Do you deny that? Do you not deny that your brain is a huge calorie burner for us, and that the best source of calories is meat?
That's a claim that I do need to come up with a counter for. I'm not totally sure on.
If you look into that and you figure out that I'm right, and will you realize that you're starving your own brain to your own detriment and consider eating meat?
Okay, I will. But like right here, okay, I would have. And as I was saying that, I kind of looked it up. I said, I just checked, do brains require meat for calories? Just to kind of see, it says brains do not require meat specifically for calories. Well, it's a good source.
Are you telling me ChatGPT stuff? Don't give me ChatGPT.
No, let him finish. It's gonna agree with you. I googled it too.
In order to have an actual vegan or vegetarian lifestyle, you have to eat very, very specific things and supplement your diet to get the proper nutrition that you get from meat, especially B vitamins,
I've had this,
things such
as
that.
You can do it without.
No.
So here's what I've looked into.
No, I don't care what you say. You're wrong.
Well, then I guess.
Dude, I know
let him
this.
finish his thing. I care. Yeah, no, you're just wrong, 10th man.
Everyone hates vegans. It's very apparent.
No, I'm right.
Don't forget that.
Deeply into this.
Well, let him say what he's going to say, and then you say what you're going to say.
Can I say something? Can I say something to Steelman's vegan points? I just want to mention that humans have, if we look at the actual human anatomy, we've got tiny manufacturing centers everywhere. Not only do our kidneys, not that most people need to know this, but they recycle nutrients and proteins and help clean the blood. But we also have ATP that recycles throughout the day. And so, I'm not saying like go be a dumbass and do stupid shit that your body's never done before. But I think a lot of what Steelman's saying, I agree with, and I experienced it as well. As a sex beast vegan like Steelman.
What did you say?
As a sex beast vegan like Steelman.
So you don't eat things that have sex?
No, I'm saying being a vegan turned me into a sex beast.
Does that mean you're good in bed?
Yeah, that's
man.
When is the last time you had sex with another human?
Or female?
It has been a while.
Okay.
It's been a long time.
You're not a sex beast then.
Well, right hand,
That's
left
fair.
hand. Take your
I
pick.
will grant you that point, Dusty.
All right, let me do a couple super chats and then Sex Beast can get back to it. Steelman, it all makes sense when I see yo ass. Crazy mama's shooting shots from the chat. Peace Dynamo with $5 says a few people this week proving not to be life coaches material. LOL. Taking shots at Jack Talcott, the homeless life coach, and Inquisitive Archivist Steelman looking malnourished up there. He cammed off before I could even read it because there he's back. And pale. And I'm not. This is not me trying to take a shot at Steelman, but you may notice that vegans all have a gaunt, pale, dark-eyed look to them. All
They
of
look
them.
sick.
And most of and they're all. Steelman's really chill tonight, but all of them have that sort of like aggressive, sort of aggressive, spazzy demeanor.
I did drop an article in the back chat about the fruitarian that died from eating a fruitarian vegetable only.
Oh.
So you did actually though bring up a good.
What are we looking at here?
Whoa.
What the?
Who had the screen open?
It looks
there?
really unhealthy to me. Don't get me wrong. He looks really
I like
unhealthy.
that, whatever it was. That was good stuff.
All right.
Is that the link I dropped?
Yes, sir.
Good one, Chuck.
You got to be
Exposed
shitting me.
yourself. Chuck, that was the
You
other
got to
link.
be kidding me.
That was from your personal link. Send the other link.
This is the link you dropped. That was Fatty's screen share.
Fatty?
Nice, Fatty.
Vegan
Nice.
influencer Zana Samsonova dies of starvation after a decade of only eating raw fruit and vegetables.
Oh, interesting anyway.
What
two
year
things.
was that?
Two things with you guys discussing. I think you guys assumed that we started off eating plants first. And the smell thing, you're talking about if a human is rotting, fruit rots. It's pretty smelly too.
Has anybody ever hunted and like field dressed an animal and got like fresh raw meat and been there? It smells good, actually.
I did it. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And there's something like there is something about hunting that is like primally
it's like drugs, bro.
Right.
It's like heroin, Joe.
You should see Joe Cool hunting cops.
Yeah, it's like that, bro.
Farming can do it, or gardening can do it for you too. The same feeling of producing your own food.
I like that.
I mean, gardening's like relaxing, and hunting's like exciting.
Yeah, but every time I shoot the tomatoes with a shotgun, there's nothing left.
Right. Yeah, you missing the
First time I went
adrenaline,
hunting was pheasant hunting, and I didn't get a pheasant, but I did do that. I basically, the rabbit ran right in front of me and stopped there.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, 12 gauge on a rabbit from like 5 feet away. There's not a lot going on there to eat. We ate it because it was my first kill, but it wasn't good. It was full of shot.
Well, I mentioned in the chat, and I'm not trying to take a shot at Steelman, right? But you get like the teeth issue, right? You get calcium from calcium leaching into bone. Like you can also get it from leafy green vegetables, but eating stuff like fish and pheasant, that stuff that's bony, that's a main source of calcium.
That's not entirely so. That's slightly misleading. If we're talking about bone health, it's our hypo or hyperthalamus does a lot of the sort of smaller precursor chemicals, which eventually for men end up in the testes. Also, estrogen's incredibly important to keep a healthy metabolism. And so when we're thinking about actually having bones that, are nutrient dense and stuff, and I'm not Peter Attia, I'm just Duck. I'm just a guy who loves, running 10 hours a week. I've got a 6-pack. Not that great of a conversationalist, but
you said that you agreed with most of Steelman's points. Can you defend any of the points I made? Can you push back on it?
Yeah, if I was going to attack Steelman, I would definitely say that.
Take up for Steelman. You said you took up for Steelman. I'm saying I made a lot of points that he couldn't answer to. Can you answer to those?
Definitely. So I would say the vegan physiology is one of a gatherer. And so by and large, a vegan can often spend 20 hours a day on their feet. They're actually designed to have strong bones. They're designed to be upright, as the father was, as some would believe. And not only this, but they're developed to be very internally consistent. I would say that, you know, if I can eat some seeds and raw stuff that I find or whatever as a caveman, then I'm perfectly happy to have brown rice or mung beans or something like this. And this is still extravagant. So I anything you can do, I can do better.
Okay, well, that's, first of all, you're talking about, you said developed, I believe, and if the whole way through you're acting as if vegans are designed differently than non-vegans, which is just obviously false because we're all humans. So there's not a design difference. But what about the brain needing a lot of calories, and that basically it would be essential for us if we want to keep up our intelligence or maintain
B12 also comes
This
from.
is a great point. So my response to this is that modern humans, we emphasize these anabolic processes where we're putting on muscle mass. And so with a lot of protein in our bloodstream, yes, our brains and everything, it's true, they can consume a lot of protein, a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of ATP from fat and what have you. But the complete other side of this is humans don't always have to be anabolic and bulking. You know, if you look at
our brains
Our brains need the B12 from meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I would say, you know, I'm not a neuroscience expert or brain expert, but I'm not aware that brain cells run on any different fuel than the rest of the body.
They just our brains take more calories. Our brains use a massive amount of calories compared to most animals because we've got bigger brains relatively, and they work better. So
yeah,
about 50% of our caloric intake goes to our brain.
I'll tell you that. No, I'll tell you a cup of quinoa is like like a quarter cup of quinoa is an insane amount of energy. Insane amount.
Illegal in the U.S.
What is quinoa?
Quinoa is, I don't know if it's a cereal grain. I don't think it is actually, but it is a you know, it's a complex. It has all the amino acids. You're probably not going to like it if you try it for the first time, but it's one of the many foods that on the vegan food journey that you will discover.
Okay, so that doesn't really do anything to my point.
None of this can be considered medical or health advice.
Right.
It's plant protein, like
quinoa,
whey protein.
Natural. Okay, I'm looking at a natural distribution map. I'm going to share this screen.
I'm already looking at it. It's like beans or something.
No, but here's
seed, I think is what they called it.
So this is a map of where quinoa grows. The red is natural and the green is where it's been cultivated. So you're telling me that this is how humans don't need meat?
Yeah, you know, if you look at that South American region, that's probably a pretty big region. Just, I mean, we're being honest, like that's probably a lot of real estate there.
Enough for the world.
So I'm just saying it's still viable. It's still a viable thesis.
You know that not that whole area is quinoa farms. I'm telling you that this is the only area where quinoa is grown at all.
Yeah, but see, I'm going to argue that you wouldn't even need quinoa. That there's a whole bunch of other fruits. You know, it's just you don't need a meat to make that.
Let me ask Flo this: how many non-aggressive vegetarians have you ever met?
Like none. They're both being pretty chill tonight. But I've seen them both be pretty unchill as well. I don't know how to describe it except for the aggressive, jittery. They seem like they're starving when they get in that mood. It's like they're jumpy, you know.
When I first met my husband, he showed me his phone, and it was these texts from his best friend, and it was like 12 paragraphs explaining how everyone who eats meat is evil. Then a couple weeks later, I went down to meet his parents. She was eating pepperoni pizza.
Lord of the Pies, wait. I love this. Lord of the Pies is eating literally a beef-only burrito.
That's right. Do as thou wilt.
In a tortilla made out of grains, right?
The thing about it, humans are scavengers. We're just not carrions, right? We can. We eat what we get our hands on, and we're very adaptive. So throughout centuries, our hunting techniques, and then animal husbandry, as well as gathering, and then food cultivation. That's why our diet is very diverse. We're omnivores.
What is it?
Omnivores. I like that.
The Eskimos up there that live off of just whale for how many centuries?
Well, I disagree with that point because there were also Spartan warriors as well as I'd mention gladiators that were vegans.
Well, gladiators were slaves, and I already said that the slaves were kept away from meat so that they would not be as smart.
Dumb them down, right?
Meat eating allows you to have a more developed brain and more developed muscles. So, like, both ways of fighting, that makes sense.
And it's easy for you to say that when your ancestors ate meat and gave you that big brain. Now you want to turn around and be like, I don't want to eat meat no more. Easy for you to say.
It's a very because most vegans are socialists, so I'll say it's a very bourgeois concept.
I like it. I dig it.
Hold on. Let's stop.
Did you say socialist?
Yeah. Did you say socialist? Because I would argue that the meat eaters are some of the biggest socialists, and they are actually also the biggest hypocrites. And here's my point: what I found out on this, a person who is on food stamps and is a vegetarian, uses less government funds than a person who eats meat and doesn't get food stamps because of the government subsidies. A meat eater uses 4 times the amount of money that a person on food stamps gets.
What are you talking about? They all get the same. Nobody asks you if you're eating meat or not when you sign up for food stamps.
No. I'm saying
that data you'd have to source that data because that.
I'm telling you, go ahead and double check my work. The subsidies that the government spends on the meat industry for all the expenses in the meat industry.
Government subsidizes plant crops too, more.
And the majority of the plant crops, that they subsidize are to feed the meat industry. It's a very small percentage. Yeah, and it all goes to this meat industry. And
so all you're saying is that there's 2 layers of inputs that go into meat and 1 layer of input that goes into plants.
But the calorie density and nutritional value is like 10 times higher.
Hold on, no. What I'm saying is that when it comes to government subsidies and socialism, meat eaters are actually 4 times more socialists than people who are for food stamps and don't eat meat.
Okay. By the way,
He's saying meat is more expensive, therefore he's calling the meat eaters socialists.
Because the government
farmers
funding
subsidies go for export crops anyway.
Who is it that is pushing plant-based diets? It's the same people that are pushing public-private partnerships. It's the World Economic Forum. It's New World Order shit.
Okay, so we can get into the New World Order shit. Go ahead, let's discuss it.
Can I push back on that topic about the subsidies?
Push it in, Fatty.
Listen, farms grow what? And ranches do what? The farm industry gets way more subsidy than the ranch industry. We're not exporting meat, right? We're halfway subsidizing half the world with our grain.
This grain is going to feed the crops, and
farmers get paid not to grow, so we don't subsidize the market.
Feed the meat,
so we don't flood the market with subsidized. Like
what Fatty is saying aligns with my knowledge of. I was a banker. I was a loan officer in a rural community for a long ass time, and that is my understanding of these industries. Is that the farming industry is subsidized way more than the ranching industry.
Yes, I agree, but check and you will see that the majority of the subsidies that go to the farming industry is actually then going back to the meat industry. It's actually they're subsidizing all of these crops to be grown to be turned into animal
all
feed.
You're doing is pointing out that there's more layers into a meat product.
Corn, soybean, wheat, cotton, and rice are the biggest subsidies.
Yeah, and it's the number one. Sorry, Joe.
Corn, soybean, wheat, cotton, and rice are the biggest subsidies. Corn probably for the animals. Soybeans, wheat, cotton, and rice probably not for the animals.
Joe, wait, give me 1 second with Joe. Joe, I just got to ask: Can we agree that Also, farmers have to make decisions over, say, 10, like you might make a decision over 5 or 10 years, and so,
Right.
you know, there's a reason why that business, you know, lobbies for subsidies and maybe actually gets them more than other businesses.
I'm not sure I understand. When you said a bit, are you talking about the farm as a business?
Yeah, I'm talking about like soybeans are
So
grown
I
in
actually,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I actually checked into
Lobbyists.
why
I go for that.
I
Yeah.
checked. Yeah, and yeah, it goes into the lobbyists, and that there was a bill that was passed during like World War II where the meat industry was subsidized in order to like supply meat to everyone during like maybe not World War II, there's like the Great Depression or something like that. And because of that presidential act that was passed during the Great Depression, that never like got changed, and the meat industry
All
just make-
agricultural industries were subsidized during World War II.
Yes, and all of them are still majorly subsidized, and all of it is basically, in my opinion, a price fixing scheme on food globally. Globally,
I like it. Yeah, I dig it.
Fatty, I see you moving around.
Yeah, but they still knew that we needed meat. That's why the bill was passed, is because we can't go to war without meat, without protein, right? MMA fighters can be big badass motherfuckers and not eat meat.
It would have
What are
helped
they
if you
subsidizing? What
had
are they
meat.
subsidizing?
Well,
their
it wasn't.
body? What are they supplementing with? Right, protein. We need protein, right? To grow. Our brain needs protein.
But how do you?
What does the
get
gorillas
that?
bring? And
We're not gorillas, man. Gorillas
But
are
where do they get their
stupider than
protein?
we are. Gorillas
Oh
are
my
stupider
God.
than we are.
But protein isn't what protein we use to make muscles.
My
Well,
brother,
how is
my
it-
brother
Okay,
in Christ.
no, here
It's
though.
about the
Here though.
amount of protein per package.
This is where
Just
we think the
because-
mushroom plays an effect, right? This is where the mushroom comes into this.
Yeah,
because the
okay.
mushroom
The
changed
mushroom comes
our
back.
gut,
Okay.
right? It changed the way we think, and it changed our gut, gave us a
I
different
think-
metabolism
look,
than regular animals.
All you, and this is coming from a junkie, right?
So
all you
why can't it be
junkies
both?
and your mushroom fetish.
It can be both. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we can only live off of mushrooms, or we can only.
What am I
Meat eaters-
hearing?
Meat eaters aren't saying that we only live off of meat, right?
I'm down. Only live off mushrooms. I like that.
No, that's a good point,
Fatty,
Fatty.
can I-
The vegetarian point
Fatty,
is saying
I
that
gotta-
you only live off of vegetables, and there's
No, I
it's
like
a false
Fatty's
dichotomy.
point.
Is what it
yeah.
is. It's a false dichotomy.
No, but bro, what do you owe if you're figuratively with your paycheck raising 2 cows a year, right? It's so different because a farm can feed as many people as possible.
I didn't, that statement didn't make any sense to me. But
It'd
we
be a
got a
farm and
super
a
chat.
ranch at that
We
point.
got a super chat. Who on the panel would eat bugs for protein? And I'm saying only if I got super desperate and starving.
I think we
There's
all will
cultures
be
on
doing
Earth
it
that
in
do eat
25
that,
years.
right?
It's
Because they
going to
need
be
protein.
normal
It depends
food.
on the
Okay.
bug, how they market it, and how it's cooked.
Hey, Brian! Hey, man! Hey, you gotta wake up, man!
That's new, ain't it?
It's newish. I don't use it a lot, but that's
Newish.
what I meant to play. Yeah.
So there's actually a lot of bugs in
Why are
candies.
bugs like a delicacy and served so often in different cultures around the world? Then where they
Because
can't
they're
grow cows.
poor cultures. There's nobody in a
Right.
rich country eating bugs for a delicacy.
But
no,
they
it's
can't-
in our
it's-
candy.
yeah.
They can't eat. They can't grow cows there. Is why they're eating
There's-
bugs.
In children's candy, all over our stores, the red dye that they're
Oh,
using.
shut up! I know
Sure.
you're right. I hate this. I hate this.
Well, there's a difference between
that's-
eaing a cockroach versus eating a byproduct that is used. That is like
That's called
manufactured
ignorance. That's the
as part
difference.
of-
Didn't they just say that they had to get rid of red number 40?
I hope so.
I
I
don't know if
think
it's
that's
red.
what
Is that
Yeah,
RFK.
Okay, is there
I
anybody
think
on the
that's the
panel
one,
who would
though.
eat bugs without having to be starving?
Fuck no.
Are we going around?
I mean, I just want anybody. Yeah, are you one of them? I don't want to go all the way
On a
around.
drunk night, having a tequila, if there's a bug in the bottle, woo, I get drunk
Candy
with some
crickets,
white
never had candy
boys,
crickets.
and that's my
I-
bug eating for the year.
I've eaten the tortillas that there's made out of some bugs. So I mean,
Ew, they make
weren't
tortillas
bad.
out of bugs.
They mix some type of like bug that's high in protein in the flour, and it's like really popular in Mexico. When I was living out in Oklahoma and Texas, I ate some of them with some Hispanic people I knew.
Did you
Wasn't
know they
bad.
had bugs in before?
No, but it wasn't bad once they told me and they showed me the box.
Yeah.
I didn't believe them.
I ate a mountain oyster once because I lost a bet.
Oh my God. Mountain oyster. Oh, yes. Were you around Colorado? Is that Colorado?
Yeah, I was. I was in Boulder.
Nice.
Rock Creek Lodge, Montana has the testicle
He
festival
was
every year.
in Boulder eating
Shame on all you
boulders.
sinners. God isn't a mustard seed and God isn't a beetle. That's all I have to say.
Can you translate it?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So your pal Duck, he always finds the narrative and the story in things. It's something he hangs on to. It's something he remembers, and it's something that is
in the third person.
Deep. It's something that's deeply important to the panelist known as Duck, and so the other side then, of course, of this is that if God is in a mustard seed, and we're taught to find that sort of divine thing in the small, then the other side of this, of course, the listening side is that I believe I could find God in a different, like an insect or a different life form,
or an apple, or an apple.
Yeah.
So
but
none of my words meet up at all.
Eat that, but you'll still eat
Do
that
I
apple.
get to talk like that long?
Isn't pollen just a way of
No, you don't.
I'm just saying.
Aren't plants having incest when they pollinate each other?
Somebody had to drag it back through bees. Okay, let's go.
Probably. I don't know.
10th man, would you like to talk half as long as Duck did? Go ahead.
I just want you to apologize to me for discounting that I know for a fact, because I used to date a vegan. Right? They have to take supplements and stuff. You can't just go straight vegetarian.
That cannot be true.
Yes, you will not have B12. Your bones are going to start degenerating. Trust me, you end up with a plethora of health problems.
I'm Googling.
You get most of your calcium from leaching.
Yeah, because if you look at a vegan's face, look how sunken in it is.
Dude, again, with the extreme example, right? There's
generally recommended
MMA
that they
today.
take
The
supplements.
best MMA fighters are vegans. They don't eat meat. Okay, they supplement the fuck out of their bodies. They don't eat meat. Right? It's about protein. Right? The biggest toughest on earth right now.
That's not true. Back up that claim. I do not believe at all that the best MMA fighters are vegetarian.
Just
right,
type it in.
He's right, though. Protein is protein.
You're making the
when
claim.
you digest protein, you break it down to like its components, right? Like the amino acids and the carboxylic acids. So it doesn't matter what protein you're eating. It matters that you have the pieces of the proteins that you can make your own proteins from it.
I don't know if I believe that that's true. I think that my understanding is that you can't actually replace. There's a lot of connective tissues and other things besides just protein and meat that you need. Like B12 is one of them. Fats. There's all sorts of
is not
things.
a connective tissue.
I know it's not connective tissue, but like it's something that's in meat that's not protein.
It's more of the concentrations. You can find it in other stuff, but meat has such a high concentration of these things that like you don't need to eat as much of it to get the amount that you need.
Before we get too far, most MMA fighters are not vegan, according to Google. Most MMA fighters are not vegan.
I'm going to put it this way: like, if we really were the type of species, who like could go like a week without our next meal if we don't actually like eat meat, then sure. But we're not. We're actually smarter than this. We can totally eat vegan if we actually figure we figure this stuff out.
Why would we?
Well, for one thing, because like the meat industry, with its size, is very cruel. I'm not.
Well, I don't have to participate in the meat industry anyway, right? I can go hunt my own shit, and now I'm okay suddenly. Or should I still go and not eat meat?
Okay,
I think local farming. I think local farming is more ethical.
And I was talking about killing animals. I was talking about shooting my own animals. Is it okay if I eat meat? Excuse me, guys, everybody, hold on. Is it okay to eat meat if I'm killing my own shit?
It's more ethical. And so another thing to consider is that like the amount of space that we're taking up to grow this food for meat is added on to the amount of space we take up for the meat. We could just eat all that food that we grow in that space.
Not to the same efficiency. The amount,
Joe,
like you said, there's more calories packed into meat than there is in plants.
No, I did not say that about calories. I said about certain nutrients.
Okay, well then I'll say it about calories.
That's not true. Mushrooms have way more. Mushrooms have way more.
Do you
calories
think it'd be more space effective to grow mushrooms on our agricultural land? Or?
Well, if you have the right like ecotope, but in most cases it would be like corn or what's the alternative that's better, like potatoes and stuff.
But so what we're talking about here, what we're discussing is making an intentional move to an unnatural way of living. So
well, hold on.
No, this is already unnatural. So what's the difference?
What's unnatural about eating meat?
The way we produce it.
Because it's cruel and they're packed into cramped conditions, or because why?
That's two different things, right?
Mm-hmm. They're different things.
So right now, 98% of the farmland, I think it is in the U.S., and I will check these numbers if you need, but it's insanely high, is just growing food for the meat industry.
Okay.
I think that's your only beef with it. It's not, that we shouldn't eat meat.
Was that pun intended? Was that a goddamn pun?
That was unintended. But that's the only objection with it. It's not that you shouldn't eat meat. It's all the fucked up things that come along the way we do it. Am I hearing you right?
Sure, yeah. I just think we could do it better.
All right.
That's part of the reason. A good part of the reason.
I won't pretend like the industrial meat industry is not cruel. It is, for sure. But
we could also
that doesn't mean just because it's cruel doesn't mean that meat is not it's almost damn near essential part of our diet. I mean, it basically is vegetarian. Unless you what's that? Vegetarian?
Vegetarians, where you eat meat, where you eat like fish and eggs, but you don't eat meat.
Yeah.
Oh, pescatarian.
But again,
there's like pesco vegetarians. There's all kinds of different varieties and varietals that are really doing the same
all
thing.
These things that are like it sounds like the reasoning primarily is because it's a moral one about not hurting animals, not a health one about it's healthy.
Oh no, the factory farming industry.
I think you're right.
Terrible impacts on our health through like ecosystem loss, biodiversity loss. They generate their own zoonotic viruses a lot of the time.
You just answered something else entirely. I didn't ask about the ecosystem. I said about human health.
No, that is human health. So like, for example, when we put all the space that we put into factory farming, we increase like the pollution in cities because we no longer have protected forests that actually are protected from the elements to absorb things like dust in the air that eventually makes its way through the city.
This is so far downstream. And what I'm saying is it's biologically healthy for humans to eat meat. Do you agree?
No. It's just as healthy to eat plants.
Okay, except you would die in most parts of the world.
No.
Okay. What do you do? I'm in Kansas City. What do I do?
Are we counting fish as this? Because that's the biggest problem here is that like, we could easily live off fish, but I don't count fish as meat per se.
Okay. It doesn't matter. What I'm asking you is, I live in Kansas. What do I do 9 months out of the year for food? If it's 1,000 years ago,
you suffer.
Oh, 1,000 years ago. Yeah, no, those are different times. We didn't have the technology we have now.
So that there would be no way to live vegetarian on most of the globe unless
1,000 years ago.
Except for today with our modern processes.
No, most of the globe is not 1,000 years behind in technology. Wow, that's ridiculous.
No, 1,000 years ago, if we were 1,000 years ago, most of the globe would be uninhabitable except through eating meat.
Not even 1,000, just 200 years ago.
I would have been thinking something like that. Yeah.
Mel, are you down for the Bill Gates lab grown meat then? Yes.
Well, as we pointed out, we don't care about like the red food diet that comes from bugs, so long as we can remain ignorant about it. So yeah, it's fine. Because he's gonna process that, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's no difference between that and freaking like using blubber for like men's or women's hair products. Like
people vote, everybody.
Luxury market.
I thought there's actually probably a lot of ways that whales were used for a long time, but the main thing I thought what came from whales was like the hormones for fragrances?
Oh, maybe it is. I don't know.
Thank you, Just White. She sends $10 in and says, please play this. And my initial reaction was, this better not be fucking long. And it is not long. It is 5 minutes.
First of all, how dare you rip off whitest kids you know?
Absolutely I will, because I'm the Pope and I make money.
You're also the whitest kid I know.
There you go. Let's see where to go.
Is that Jess sending her homemade movies again? Hope she got on clothes this time.
G'day, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I need to know about your imagination.
Oh wow, another Australian guy is upset about something.
To these people who are trying to help animals and help the environment, to vegans. And this video is for you guys. If I've offended you, if I've upset you, if I've made you...
All right, Jess, have you played this on your thing? This is
Just
a big
you gotta let him cook. Let him cook.
I didn't. That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you, look at this channel. Have you played this guy on your channel?
Yes, I have.
And did you get a copyright?
No.
It looks like he's already
over the last year.
Well, just remember, put yourself in the bottom corner. It seems to help. Put yourself in the bottom corner, remember?
This is Isaac Butterfield's bread and butter. Is getting mad.
Corner. Everybody needs to stop with the commentary. We're gonna let him cook for a second. I will. If you find yourself suddenly sniped, it's because you were talking.
I mean, look what I've succumbed to. I'm copping death threats, abuse on the daily. I've lost my Makita radio and my fucking lounge. It's all happening. And it's time to stop. It's time to say sorry to vegans. It's time to give up this meat-eating bullshit. And ladies and gentlemen, right now, I have something to announce. Believe it or not, I'm going vegan. And you are going to witness the last piece of meat I'm ever going to eat, the last steak that will ever be consumed by this mouth. Without further ado, here it is. Well, ladies and gentlemen.
That was evil, just evil, bro.
The Last Supper. I've got a lot of emotions going on right now, but let's just get straight into it. I don't even know where to start. We'll start right here.
That's not fair.
Here's to the rest of my life.
All right, Jess, we can't play this. I'm sorry.
Play it. You won't get copyrighted. Just mute it then and play it.
Oh my God, you're gonna fuck up the monetization on this whole video, Jess.
I am not.
Just skip it to the end. Jess, I assume you're going for whatever the end game is, so just go to the end of it.
Just do it without sound.
No,
then.
just
great.
mute the music part of it. It'll finish soon.
So will I.
Maybe put closed captions or something on it. I don't know.
I've played this video before and I didn't get copyrighted. It's fine.
I've actually played this song on a short, and I had to cut it down to under a minute. Yep.
Yeah, I think everybody used that song. Yeah.
Hey, it's not bad visually though.
Damn, I'm getting hungry.
I'm not even upset that we're watching this.
Right, I'm suddenly appreciative.
I love this video.
Isaac Butterfield probably does think of women as pieces
This is
of
a
meat.
really good choice.
Yes.
Hot damn.
I told you had to let him cook.
Oh my goodness.
Right. It would look so much better if they were running a jackhammer right now.
I feel really advertised too, right? Like the whole
in the video
sort of thing.
I think.
Oh, you're ruining it.
God, that was amazing. That's the best steak I've ever had. This vegan, get right off. I'm never going vegan. I can't believe it. That's too good. This is too good. I've got to have more. Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, give me a moment.
More, baby.
That's too good to be true. Listen, give me a second. I'm going to finish this off, and I'll be right back with you.
I feel the same way about human flesh.
Special to show you.
Damn, he wrecked that steak.
Bravo me. You didn't really think I was going vegan? Surely, I'm just a marvelous fucking actor.
Wow,
Hollywood, sign me
so
up
facetious.
immediately. And to the vegans out there, fuck your death threats, fuck all you fuckers that are making videos about me. Listen, no one really gives a shit about your scientific opinion.
If you didn't, you
Everyone
wouldn't be
just wants to
making a
laugh at
video
you,
about
and they
this.
enjoy doing so. So I will continue to provide the entertainment about making fun of you.
So let's eat people because people meat tastes really good, right?
Thank you, Flo. Thank you for playing that.
I've eaten a few women. I'm not complaining.
Fat people taste good too. Wait.